Hello, good people of YouTube and Spotify. Mountbatten here for episode 10 of season 2 of the Salt, Ships, and Scuttlebutt Podcast. Greene has still not returned from vacation. I have not heard from him, so I know not where he is. For all I know, he could be getting slow roasted over an open fire by a Southeast Asian tribe at this moment. I don't know. Hopefully he'll be back next week. But fear not, I have a guest tonight. And it's a very relevant guest considering recent news that we've had with Wargaming, with Wargaming announcing Wargaming Legends coming to PC. A very interesting and I would say odd move indeed from Wargaming. But our guest tonight is the one and only Mr. Xarkun. He is a World of Warships Legends CC, and I guess I should probably let him introduce himself instead of me talking about him. So, Xarkun, go ahead, tell the people hello.
Yes, hello. I am Xarkun, and this is what did you call the podcast? I
Salt,
cannot
ships, and
remember the name.
scuttlebutt. We're off to a great start.
Yep, that's how I that's how I used to introduce all my videos. But yep, I'm a CC for World of Warships Legends console pleb, you could say. Have been for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. I started playing Legends in 2019 when it was first released, and created a YouTube channel shortly after that, and here we are.
Here we are indeed. Well, it's just wild to think that Legends came out in 2019, and we'll talk a little bit about like the stuff that surprised me about Legends later on when I was reading up on it before talking about it, I think last week. But 2019, 2025, that's 6 years. Yeah, I'm not a math teacher, but yeah, that's about 6 years or so.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, so I figured we'd have Xarkun on tonight so we could talk about Legends and PC because he, unlike myself, he has played both versions of the game. So he's an excellent guest, in my opinion, to talk about what's going on and the differences between the two versions of the game. I haven't gotten around to Legends yet. I'll probably check it out once it does fully come to PC, I guess later this year, because what they're doing it's not an alpha, it's the beta test, right?
Yeah, this is some sort of closed beta test. Seems like their goal is just to see if buttons are,
Yeah.
working and things like that.
Yeah, that's a lot of I don't know what because the Legends team and the PC team are two separate teams from my understanding. Do you know what studio does Legends by any chance? Because I don't. I'm just asking if you genuinely know.
I don't actually. I don't know, especially after the whole
Split.
split,
Yeah.
Yeah. I have no idea really. I think they're based somewhere in Prague. That's where all
Prague.
the
Yeah.
community managers for Legends are anyway.
Yeah, because I know Wargaming Serbia now is the one that does PC. Because I mean, it used to be St. Petersburg, which is less. So I was just wondering if they're like down the hall from each other, or if they're across Europe or somewhere else. So I don't know. It's just an interesting time with the company right now with that. So where shall we start with Legends? So what would you say is the biggest diff? Well, actually, let's start with why do you think they're trying to bring Legends to PC? Come from a Legends player's perspective.
I don't know. I asked them that question. I said, you've got this product, you've got World of Warships, and so you're going to put Legends on Steam. Aren't you worried that that's going to potentially, I don't know if it would, but, cannibalize your own player base? And they didn't seem that concerned about it. I think their vision must ultimately be something like, because Legends is on console, and they put it on the mobile platform not too long ago. So I think their vision must be something like, oh, if you want to play the ships game, you can start playing it on, Steam in your home office. You can move to your living room, play it on the console, then go to the DMV or something and sit in the line and play it on mobile. That's the only thing I can really think of. I don't know what's prompted them to do it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean that's what that was one of the theories I floated in my video, and then when I was talking with other players about it, that's something that they brought up how and it's not just like World of Warships that's doing this, but a lot of games are like that now, where you have a console version, you have a PC version, and you have a mobile version, but like your account's synced, so like your progress tracks over whatever platform it is that you're playing on. So it's kind of like you said, wherever you go, you're playing the game. Because like Call of Duty does that, PUBG does that, Fortnite does that. Those are the big three ones that I can think of off the top of my head. Oh, and Minecraft. Minecraft does that too, but Minecraft's kind of in the same situation because you've got the original version of Minecraft and you have the newer version of Minecraft that are kind of competing on PC. But like with Minecraft, every child in North America plays that, I'm pretty sure. So they have enough of a player base to do that. But with World of Warships, that was my thought too. Like, why would you release the same product on PC when, like, especially with the North American numbers for the PC, they're not overly great. So why would you like kind of cut into that? So that's just an odd decision, in my mind at least, because I don't know. It's like when you go to PC for gaming, you think of better performance, and like with World of Warships compared to Legends. I know there's I think PC still has more ships than Legends, right? Or more tech lines.
I'm sure it does. There's some tech lines that don't exist in Legends yet. The Spanish cruisers
Mm-hmm.
don't. The Pan American battleship line doesn't. We have the Atlantico, but um, there's a couple. The Pan American, or yeah, the Pan American cruiser line, whatever one has the San
San
Martin
Martin,
as the
yeah,
tier 10. That doesn't exist. I like that line. It's one of my
that's a really fun
favorites.
line. Yeah.
It is. It's like cruisers, but they're tanky because they've got these super heels and that gimmick, that funny button gimmick, which also doesn't exist in Legends yet.
Oh,
Probably
y'all don't
because
have
there's
funny
not.
buttons?
No,
Oh, probably because it's not have buttons on the controller, huh?
probably the consumable. Well, the funny button's not really a consumable, but the consumables are all mapped to the D-pad on the controller, and there's 4 buttons there, and one of them has to be the damage control party. So,
Oh, so
what do you
wait,
do with the other 3?
how does Wooster work? Because Wooster's got like most of the consumables all to itself.
Probably turn on Legends, so I have it next to me. Trying to think of what consumables Worcester
Because
has. It certainly has radar.
Wooster on PC, I believe it is. Well, it's got damage con, heal, radar, hydro, and I think DFAA. I think it has it all at once. I haven't touched Wooster in a hot minute, but I remember like when it came out, it had like everything but reload booster, essentially.
I'm gonna say you probably have to choose between. Well, that's a common thing though on WoWs. You've got to choose between
A DFAA
DFAA and
or radar.
sonar.
I mean, it has a catapult fighter too. No, I don't think it has a catapult fighter. Um, but it has more than four. Because
It
like
might. Des
they,
Moines has fighter on
yeah, Des
Legends. I
Moines,
can tell
yeah,
you that
it
because I
has fighter
see
on
them
PC too.
sometimes.
Fighter Des Moines. Oh man,
Yeah, like
I'm not sure if you're familiar with the days of like double fighter, double spotter Des Moines. That was something.
well, maybe there would be a reason to do that on WoWs, but on Legends, I don't know why you'd ever give up the radar for a fighter
Oh no,
or the
there's no reason.
yeah.
They just gave you the
I mean,
option. Because like range Des Moines, if you're running the spotter, the shells are going to arrive, next week sometime. And then the double fighter, like back in the day, the fighters used to they would stay up. No, actually, that's how the CB fighters work. The boat fighters still work the same, where they go up for a certain amount of time. But once they expended their ammunition, so they used to have an ammo count back in the day. Once they spent all their ammunition or the time ran out, they would land, I guess you could say. But if you had two of them, technically you have double the ammo. But yeah, but that's back in pre CV rework World of Warships when you could have 4 or 5 carrier squadrons flying around. So double fighter kind of made sense back then, but not for the Des Moines because you give up the radar. It was mostly a meme, mostly.
yeah, that's got to be it. It's just for memes. It can't be because you're trying to make the ship more
No,
effective.
yeah, have you heard of Euro? Euro?
Yeah.
Yeah, he made a double fighter, double spotter Des Moines video, and then people tried to play it and actually pull it off, and they figured out it was a meme. Well, some people did, some people didn't.
Yeah.
So, I know we were talking about before the podcast the main differences between the two games. Wait, actually, I keep skipping ahead of myself there, but you've played the beta for Steam, right? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's just a very bare bones thing. I mean, I don't know if people listening to this have tried the beta, but from what I've seen, and I've only played, how many hours does Steam say I have on it right now? Four. I've only played it for about 4 hours, but just seems to be, a test of is the game actually running on Steam? I think that's their whole goal with this thing. But they've got some things in there. There's every update Legends does, or patch, whatever you want to call it, there's a campaign, and there's like roughly 100 steps in it. You complete each one of these steps by doing various missions, things like get X numbers of fires, things like that. And there's a small one that they've got in this beta. It's got like 11 steps to it where you can get the latest campaign ship, which is the Preußen, weirdly enough. And that's, I'd say, fairly representative of how the Legends campaigns work. I suppose you could think of them as like a battle pass or a dockyard. It costs 2,500 doubloons to get what's called the Admiralty backing, which, you know how in your battle pass on WoWs, you've got one line where you grind through the battle pass and the rewards are free, then you pay the other. It's kind of like that, and the ship is always in the the paid line, and it's always
Yeah,
2,500 doubloons, whether it's legendary tier 8, 7, whatever it may be.
yeah. So it sounds like, yeah, like I said, it sounds like their version of the battle pass, but longer, I guess you could say. So Preußen, it's a premium in Legends.
Uh, I don't know that you would call any. I guess it's a premium because it's a campaign ship. All of the legendary tier ships and legends are, well, they're gold colored, like the premiums
Yeah,
or the special ships. So, yes, no, kind of. The whole tier placement in legends is, I think it'd probably be unrecognizable to somebody who's played WoWs only and never seen the game. It's weird.
it's like you're explaining science to like an ape right now. I mean, like I've taken a glance at Legends, and I don't know. Like I look at the differences here and there. I'm just like, oh, this is wild. It's the same but different, and I know that's obvious, but it's the best way I can describe it. Now I've seen gameplay from it, and Legends, it's the matches are, was it a 15-minute timer?
Yep, it's a 15-minute 9 versus 9
Nine
format.
versus nine. It's weird. Um, and from my understanding too, the ranges are like cranked down as well.
On battleships, maybe.
Okay.
That would be the biggest difference. Your highest tier battleships in Legends are probably going to have ranges that top out at around maybe let's say 19,
Yeah.
18, 20 kilometers at the most. Um, some of the cruisers and the destroyers are almost uh, stat for stat translations of what they are on PC. But yes, the ranges are less. The battles are generally played closer, let's say. I don't want to say it's not as passive
Yeah.
as World of Warships is, because it can be. But yeah, shorter ranges on the main battery guns, certainly for battleships.
Yeah. And I don't know, like there's some parts about Legends that I look at and I like the UI looks a little bit more modern because I mean because they had to redesign it in 2019. The World of Warships UI on PC like hasn't been updated in ever. They every now and then they'll change something about it. Like they removed the AP and HE labels from the shells, and they replaced them with updated images and such. But most of like the consumables and such, they're still the same, PNG images they've been using for forever. The HUD at the top of the screen. I don't know if you ever looked at that, but that's I don't think that's been remastered for anything beyond 1080p. Definitely not 1440 or 4K because they get really pixelated when you crank the game's resolution up to 4K and you increase the UI scale. So that hasn't been updated in ever. But in Legends, I've noticed that that's a little bit cleaner and such. But it'll be an interesting experience on PC once it does fully come out. Now where do you think we should start at with the differences between Legends and PC? The captains, because you tried explaining that to me, and that sounds like just craziness coming from a PC player's perspective. The way the captains work, or
It's
commanders.
crazy from my perspective these days in a lot of cases. The commander system
Yeah,
probably is the maybe not the biggest. It's certainly one of the biggest differences. It's completely unlike what is on World of Warships on the PC. It's for one thing, the commanders can be respect. You can change their various skills without having to spend, commander XP or doubloons or whatever you've got to do. If you've got a 10-point commander on WoWs and you want to change the skills, you just click on whatever other skill you want on the Legends commander. That's one thing. It's free to move them from ship to ship. Essentially, you use the same commander on one line. Like I'm looking at the Worcester now because I've got Legends pulled up, and so I've got the commander Norm Scott on the Worcester. I can have him on there, and I can simultaneously have him on the Des Moines, which is kind of nice, also kind of bad because I couldn't do a specific build with that guy for the Des Moines and a specific build for the Worcester. You know.
that's the way you can
Um,
have him on both ships, but not with a different build because he's on both ships, right? If you
yep.
Okay, so if you respec him, it'd be respect for the booster, not for the Des Moines. Okay, I see. I see.
Yeah. So there's that. Also, the whole commander skills are, it's very standardized in World of Warships, but in Legends, you'll have, there's four classes. We've got battleships, cruisers, destroyers, aircraft carriers. Much to my dismay, I am quite opinionated. I'm one of those people who doesn't
Yeah.
like CVs,
Well,
but
because Legends didn't. I didn't mean to cut you off, but Legends didn't have CVs when it launched, correct?
no, it did not.
Dang. So y'all had like the Garden of Eden over there, no subs and no CVs. Dang.
Thankfully,
Wow.
still no subs, but there
Yeah.
are CVs. Although they they don't surface spot ships for their team to shoot at. They only do minimap spotting. That was changed not too long ago. Something I had been asking for years because I think CV spotting is broken. I'm reminded of that every time I log into World of Warships and have to
PC.
play
Yeah.
against them. Yep.
So now, 'cause Legends 9v9 much smaller, and this is something that Wargames always said when we would talk about team sizes and such, and like maybe expanding the game to like a larger scale format battle. I think that's what was being asked for at the time. They're like, why can't we get like a 24 versus 24 battle? And they specifically said, well, because some classes like CVs, they're designed to be a class of one in a 12v12 mode. So if you go beyond that or below that, they become imbalanced one way or another. So I guess that's why they went ahead with the minimap spotting on Legends. So like, how does that? How do you find that works? Minimap spotting for CVs. Like, does it work well? Does it not work well?
I think it works well. It's of course they compensated CVs for the minimap spotting by massively buffing their damage output, which was not
Yeah,
great. And they're still working on that to some degree. But the minimap spotting, I think, is fantastic. I think there's a lot of players that only think of spotting, let's say, in terms of destroyers. If you're spotted by CV planes in your destroyer and you've got their team shooting at you, that can make it difficult for you to play the role of a destroyer, let's say. But the same is true if you spawn into a cruiser, let's say, and you want to get into a position. Maybe you're a radar cruiser, you want to go play an island, and you got to sail there. But then you get spotted by the CV on the way in, and suddenly his teammates can shoot at you. And um, not having that is fantastic. And it's not
Yeah.
like the mini map spotting itself is useless in terms of intelligence data and battle impact and all that stuff. You see your friendly CV reveal the positions of unspotted ships on the minimap. Well, then you know that part of the map is occupied, by the enemy, and you can react accordingly. But I think it's better that they don't spot, because I think what you have with CVs is a class that, this is a ship's game. Everybody's playing a ship. They're steering the hull of a ship with armaments that are permanently affixed to the hulls. And the ship has to be within certain proximity of a target to deal damage with it. And what a CV is doing is essentially detaching its main armament and playing the armament for the game, not the ship. And so I don't think it's balanced if that armament can both spot and deal damage. Um, so I think it's a good change. I think it's probably the best thing they could have done with CVs. I'm sure there are some Legends players who will disagree with that, but I would think the minimap spotting, I know there are players on PC who have been asking for that kind of thing to be done forever, and I've seen their rework plans for the CV spotting, which those look interesting to say the least.
It's I've played two versions of the rework now, and it is indeed very, very interesting that rather than tweak like one or two things, they go through this whole rework for this. Because like there's three big complaints that I can point out with CVs from surface ship players. One is that it feels like AA does nothing.
Mm.
Two, it's the so often you're the unlucky one that gets picked on by the CV and you just get kicked to death over the course of the next 5 to 10 minutes. And the third one is of course the spotting, and like I could fix two of them off the bat with systems they've introduced in the CV rework that you don't have to redo the whole system for. Like I think the mechanic where now once you engage the target and you begin your attack run, those planes are committed now. So when you lose a plane from that squadron, it's no longer going to get replaced by the plane from another. I'm sorry, not squadron. When you begin that attack run, that the plane no longer gets replaced by a plane from the other flight. I think that's brilliant. That's fine, and like you can implement that right now without having the three levels of CV flight, and you could also have the new auto AA mechanics where, once you get attacked so many times by a CV, that bar fills up and then you get that pretty sizable buff to your damage. You could add that right now, and those two things would massively improve the interaction with CVs and surface ships right now. Um, but then the spotting's the trickier bit because the PC crew, they've said they tested spotting internally, the 2D minimap spotting internally, and it didn't work that well. That's been the line we've gotten for a while from the PC devs. And interestingly enough, Lesta, after the split with Mir Karabli, they announced that they were bringing 2D minimap spotting to the game too, but then they bailed on it because they said it didn't work well. So I think that's interesting that, like, you got two different PC versions of the game basically, but they both tried minimap spotting. It didn't, and they claim it didn't work well. But then Legends tries it, and it seems to be working pretty fine over there. So I don't know. That's just very cool that we have three versions of the game to kind of see what's working and what's not working across the three versions. But it's I don't know. I wish they would do like a public test of it. So like, because they get asked about it all the time. Why don't we have 2D minimap spotting? They could have like a public test just so like we could see like, hey, this is why this doesn't work or whatever. Um, but but yeah, the CV rework is most intriguing indeed, and I guess we'll see what happens with it in the future. But
Yeah, I don't know if I buy that it quote unquote doesn't work. I mean, now to be fair, just, I don't like CVs. I really don't think they belong in the game. And so I am biased. So maybe somebody who likes them a little bit more than I would has some sort of problem with the mini map spotting, but I just think I don't, well, you know how CVs in real life, they sort of made naval artillery
obsolete,
battles
yeah,
obsolete. I mean, not that this is a simulation,
yeah,
either one of these games, or in any way related to real life, but you know,
yeah.
um,
I mean, that's kind of like because it gets brought up about like how OP CVs are, and I do have to kind of go, well, historically, yeah, they
yeah,
were. I mean, that's why we have carriers and submarines now, and there's no more battleships, sadly. So yeah, I mean that's kind of what happened. But again, like you said, it's a game. It's not a sim. It's not a sim for sure.
it
So
is. And maybe there's a way that they can balance CVs. I don't know exactly what it would be. My suggestion for a long time was minimap spotting only, the 2D minimap spotting, and they implemented that on Legends, and I think it's great. Um, I also think the lack of submarines is great. Those are maybe two reasons, two things that if you've been playing World of Warships on the PC for 10 years, 5 years, whatever it is, maybe that's a reason to take a look at Legends because that is so vastly different.
yeah, I mean that's literally what my video was tied. Is like, hey, you can play the game without submarines now. However, it's a completely different version of the game. Um, yeah, subs were. Well, you probably weren't playing PC at the time when subs got introduced, huh? No, because because they started that. God, how long ago were submarines added in like 2020s when they started the test of it? So I was playing like all the various test versions, public test versions at least, of the submarines when they were coming out and stuff, and like they have gone for what it's worth, they've gone from being like ungodly cracked to being now they're either completely useless or they're the most annoying thing to deal with because originally the torpedoes would do like straight up citadel damage when you got a double ping, and the damage that the torpedoes did were insane. Like a U-69 could sink a Queen Elizabeth or a Warspite with like 3 torpedoes. If you got double ping on them and you had the right torpedo build with the damage stacked and stuff, and you would do like straight up citadel damage to a Warspite. So like 3 torps with the amount of damage they did would utterly cripple, if not just obliterate, a Queen Elizabeth. And you could do this from like a kilometer away because they didn't have the disarming range with the submarines. But like now, they're in a much better place, like balance wise in terms of that. But they're just really annoying to deal with, and the mechanics they have in game just aren't really up to par with trying to deal with them. Like the as I'm sure you've noticed the ping icon on the surface, it's nowhere near where these subs are. And before the maneuverability buffs, it wasn't a huge problem because you could kind of guesstimate where they were at. But when they buffed that, like what was that last year, where they can basically turn on a dime now, it's very frustrating when you get a submarine player that knows what they're doing on the other end of that engagement, and you're just stuck there trying to play whack a mole, blind whack a mole with your ASW plane. So yeah, that's the main drawing factor I can see that might pull some PC players off from PC to Legends is the fact that y'all don't have submarines right now. And from what I saw on like all the social media posts, the Legends team's pretty adamant that like subs won't be added in the future. Do you buy that or what?
I don't know what to make of that because I remember very distinctly, when Wargaming used to make all those videos with what was that one guy? The
Chieftain.
Chieftain? Yeah.
Chieftain, yeah. Water Tanks guy.
There was a video where he gave an explanation about why submarines would never be put into World of Warships. And yet, here we are. So,
We've got the submarines, the Soviet submarines in the game, yeah.
yeah, and they say they won't go into Legends cuz they are not sure how to implement them, which fair enough. That seems like the right thought to have to me because I think they would be. I mean, imagine in the 9v9 format, imagine you
Yeah.
get, two submarines, three destroyers, and an aircraft carrier all on one team. I mean, what is there to shoot then? What's going to be spotted? Everything is playing from stealth all of a sudden, and there's no ships in World of Warships. So I don't know how they would do it. They've said they won't. I hope that is the case. I don't think they would be good for. I mean, I don't think they're great for PC, but they certainly wouldn't be good for Legends.
No, and like I think another factor about that too is the fact that like with consoles, you're limited to a lot of devs seem to be, at least they seem to be unwilling to give up the PS4 and the Xbox was it the one, the previous version? Um is that what
I think
what
so.
Xbox One? I'm a PS5 right here, so I'm a PlayStation guy. So, well, really,
Yeah, me
I
too.
have a very dusty PS5 because I have not. I got it to play the new Spider-Man game, and I played it, and then that was it. So there's that. It just kind of sits there now. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, they're limited by the previous generation of console, and I'm not sure they can handle the surface combat and then the subsurface combat, like in terms of computing power and in terms of like graphic fidelity, unless you want it to look like a PS2 game, um, playing at whatever the modern consoles resolution is. So that might be the saving grace of Legends too. Um, but yeah, no, you'd have like literally half of the team just be unspotted for 80% of the match. So yeah, and then like shotgunning too. That's a whole nother issue. Um, but yeah, no, it seems like for the time being, Legends is submarine free. But I guess we'll see what happens with that in the future. I also find it weird that like Blitz is still being supported. That is wild to me. That you
It
have
is, but isn't
go ahead.
Blitz something different entirely? Like it's a licensed product made by a different developer other than Wargaming, something like that?
Let's see. Yeah, I think it's licensed out to some mobile game company, which I mean, like, fair enough. If you're porting a game from PC to mobile, you would, license it out and have some studio do it. But it just seems weird that, like, you would release Blitz, continue to support it, and then release Legends. And I don't mean like they're still supporting Blitz in terms of like they're just keeping the servers up. Like Blitz just got an update not that long ago, like literally I think this month, where they got the Pan American battleships. Let's
Blitz
see.
seems like more of a game that's designed from the ground up to be on the mobile platform too, though, because aren't the battles on that thing like 5 minutes long?
Oh yeah, no,
Um,
it's very much a mobile game. Let's see.
and not
Uh,
well, I mean, obviously Legends is on mobile, but when they put it on mobile, I kind of thought, why are you doing that? Because if I think about mobile gaming, I don't do mobile gaming myself, but you're probably doing it while you're waiting around somewhere for something to happen, you know? And if you've got to
yeah.
commit to a 15-minute battle, what if you're in line for the doctor's office and they call your name? Well, then you're done with the battle, and all of a sudden, is your ship AFK? Maybe that's not the right acronym if they're not using a controller,
No,
but
because
you know what I mean.
I think when you back out, a bot takes over your ship. Because there's a guy at work that I worked with, and I worked at a local supermarket through junior senior year of high school, then through college, and I started doing YouTube when I was still working there. And when he heard about that, he was like, "Yeah, look, I played World of Warships Blitz." I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I've heard about that." And he showed it to me, and I mean, it was a shoot. What year was that? Like 2017. So it was like a 2017, 2016, mobile game. So it didn't look that great. But like you could like manually control the secondaries and such. And I
Mhm.
remember him mentioning like, yeah, if you back out, like a bot takes over your ship and such. So yeah, I mean it's very much geared to a short battle. And if you're like waiting in the airport for like your plane to board or whatever, or you're waiting to disembark your plane, and you're you know don't have a whole lot of time, it's very much geared for that. But I don't know, just as Wargaming develops Blitz, they might have bought a studio, and relabeled it Wargaming yada yada to do that. It's probably what happened. But yeah, I just see Wargaming's name on their website. But yeah, no, it just seems weird though that like you would still put Legends on that platform and you already have a game on that platform. Very much like
Yeah,
what they're
and then
doing
they're
with PC.
doubling down on that with the whole Steam thing. I really don't know what to make of it. I mean, personally, I want to be able to play Legends on Steam just because I like playing with a keyboard and mouse. The first time I ever played a video game was on a PC, not a console.
Yeah,
So, you know,
I
yeah,
think
the novelty of it is interesting.
I think that might have a little bit to do with it too, like how that they console players are usually younger people, elementary, junior high, high schoolish. Typically, most of them will when they graduate or when like their senior year, they'll start building PCs and such. I know because they come up to me and they ask me about questions about building their first PC and all this stuff because they know I'm a gamer. They don't know I play World of Warships. The words World of Warships have never escaped my lips in my classroom because I don't want them to find the channel.
Oh
Um,
man.
yeah, yeah. So when they ask me about what games I play, I just say, no, I play Rainbow Six. I tell them I play Rainbow Six, PUBG, and every now and then I'll let slip War Thunder. Um, and good luck finding any of my War Thunder videos because they don't do it very well. But anyway, yeah. So like, I think maybe they're trying to hold on to that audience because like they know that audience likes Legends, but they don't like the PC version. They don't want to start over again, so they'll go ahead and just port Legends to PC, which can't really be that big of a undertaking. And maybe they're trying to hold on to that audience. That's another thing I can think of at least.
Maybe. I really don't know what the justification is. And that what you said right there, maybe that's a reason why long-term World of Warships players wouldn't want to try Legends
Yeah.
because you would be starting from scratch. You'd have to. I mean, I did it when I started playing World of Warships on the PC, but I went for lines that didn't exist on Legends at the time. Like when I first started, the first line I grinded was the Italian cruiser line for the Venezia because that wasn't. No, it was a thing on Legends, but they only shot AP and HE. So I wanted to test out the
Italian
SAP.
Italian cruisers with no sap?
That's how it was originally. They do have SAP now, but it's an
Okay.
option.
Option. Oh,
Yeah.
that's witchcraft. Ammo selection. Dang, that's interesting. But I mean, I did the same thing when I started playing Mir Corably. I was like, okay, like if I'm gonna do this and start all over again, especially on an account where I'm not gonna spend money because I'm not gonna, I don't want Vladimir Putin to finance his 17th yacht off of my
Mm.
grinding. So I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna commit the time to this, I'm gonna play lines that don't exist on World of Warship. So I started going down the Russian battle cruiser line. Um, but I stopped playing when the Russian government seized the studio, and we'll see what happens. That's another interesting thing that's happening right now too. Um, but but yeah, that I would say that would be the mindset I would approach Legends with. But from my understanding, there's no lines that exist on Legends that don't exist on PC. Correct?
Yeah, I think that's true, but there are differences, I guess, in well, like the Italian cruiser line. You can, I don't know why you would, but you can play them with HE and AP. Um, I guess the Italian battleship line is maybe the one that's the most different between
Oh,
the two games.
yeah, because they have SAP secondaries, don't they? And AP and HE in the main guns.
They do, but they have improved pen angles on their AP, especially the Lepanto and the Colombo. The Colombo at one point was considered probably one of the most overpowered battleships at the legendary tier in Legends. They nerfed it a while back. It's
I was,
still very
I was
strong.
about to say, you're never gonna believe this right now. Columbo with with their unique upgrade is considered quite broken on PC, but I'm sure you know that. That's pretty funny.
I do know that I have Colombo
Oh,
leg
there you
mod. It is
go.
pretty spicy.
Dude, yeah, no, it's so funny. Columbo went from being like, yeah, it's kind of worth it because when the stars align, you land, 10 sap shells on somebody and they lose 30k, it's pretty good. And now it's like, yeah, I can do that every salvo with the unique upgrade and just delete this guy in 3 salvos. It's so goofy. Um, Geez, that is indeed funny. So, have you heard about the Leicester situation with the Russian government like seizing the studio and such?
Yeah, I have heard about that. That is disturbing. I guess they've seized it because of the whole Ukraine situation. And back when Wargaming and Lesta split, I think Wargaming did some charitable activities on
Yeah,
behalf of the Ukrainians. And so the Russian government is saying Lesta was involved in that, or at least that's their pretext for doing whatever they're doing.
yeah, that's pretty much it. They had that. I'm not sure if Legends did it, but there was it was United 24's charity, which is a charity owned by the Ukrainian government, and they raised like $1 million to buy ambulances. And from my understanding, like they Wargaming purchased the ambulances and sent them to Ukraine. And they weren't like, like those military style, Humvee ambulances. They were like the Mercedes ambulances, basically the Sprinter van that's been converted into an ambulance. And they bought however many of those you could buy for $1 million and donated them to Ukraine. This is like 8 months after the split. And Lesta even said that like they weren't involved with it, they disavowed it, this, that, and the other. And like since then, if you look at the events like Mir Korabli runs, they're like super patriotic, super pro-Russian. And what's really funny is that like when they seized the company, they were doing stuff for I think it was the anniversary of the Russian Navy, or like the Russian Navy's version of Fleet Week or whatever. They had an event going on in game for that. But yeah, no, it's just a pretext to or an excuse, whatever you want to call it, to seize the company. And like apparently they generate like $250 million US dollars a year worth of revenue, which
Yeah.
is a lot of money. And now it's not hidden in Cyprus, so the Russian government can get at it.
Yeah, and I guess I don't know what's going on or how that's going to go. It seems bad for that whole studio and that whole game. I don't know if
Yeah,
that means it's done and it's going to collapse. Who knows?
from what I've read, apparently one or two things is going to happen. One, they're going to like liquidate the studio and just grab the cash and sell off the assets or whatever. Or what's probably more likely, they're going to get bundled up with a tech conglomerate known as VK Holdings, which is owned by one of those oligarchs in Russia. So he just wants it in his portfolio. And basically, at that point, it's going to be essentially a state-ran video game studio, which is an interesting outcome to the Lesta situation. But we'll see. They the last bit of news we got, and apparently the trial's supposed to take place in May. They had the opening phases, preliminary hearing, whatever you want to call it. Lesta's lawyers requested that the hearing be an open hearing where like the media could come in and stuff, and the Russian government said no. So whatever we hear is probably going to be from the Russian government. So very one sided, very obviously not factual and truthful. So
Yeah, of course they did. Everybody knows justice is always best meted out behind closed doors. Yep.
yeah, so it's just and I feel for the Lesta staff because they're like a bunch of young Russians that went into a field that's not exactly popular in Russia because Russia's mostly oil and gas and coal and energy and such, and the technology sector is very, very small, so they didn't really have many options for work in Russia. And then you get hired, Lesta at Lesta, which was Wargaming St. Petersburg at the time, which Wargaming's making friggin' bank on World of Tanks alone, so you get this nice cushy job, and then the war happens, and now you're a few years later, your company's being seized by the Russian government. So that does indeed suck. It really sucks for the CEO because the CEO called extremist and terrorist charges as well, and he's just the guy that Wargaming handed the keys over to when they left. So that
Yeah.
majorly sucks.
Yeah, that's just the whole thing is bad. It does suck.
Let's talk about the tiers and legends because I heard you say there's legendary tier, and
Mhm.
then it goes down to tier 8.
Yeah, there's fewer tiers in Legends. You could think of Legendary tier sort of as the tier 9, but it's disconnected from the main core of the game progression, which I would say is, grinding the tech trees, right? You go
Yeah.
from tier 1 to tier 8, but once you get to tier 8, that's technically the end of the tech tree. So the way you get the legendary tier ships vary. Like Preussen, for example, is the newest one, and that's a reward for a campaign. But most of them are inside of what's called the Research Bureau. And it's not the same thing as World of Warships, where you would reset a tech line and regrind it and get these research points that you can use to buy a ship. It's not that. It's more like a waiting game.
A waiting
There's
game.
yeah, there's like I want to say like 12 steps to each bureau project. You can activate one or you can activate two if you have premium time. And basically what you do is there's 3 ships on each step of these bureau projects. You select the ships, you get a win in them, and that helps you progress faster. You also can put in commanders and some other ships. You'd almost have to look at it to see what I'm talking
Yeah.
about, but basically you just let it sit there and they will complete themselves as long as you log in, on a daily basis. Every 24 hours you've got to log in to keep the process going. And then you can speed it up by getting victories in whatever ships are involved. But eventually, if you start one of those and you log in often enough, you'll end up with a legendary tier ship. At least the older ones are like that, the originals. The first 3 were Yamato, Gross Occur First, and Alaska. Weirdly, um,
Huh.
and and those you could just start those bureau projects and not interact with them at all, and get the ships after I don't know 6 months, maybe a long time.
Oh.
And the newer ones, they have a requirement where you've got to get a win in like the tier 7 or tier 8 of whatever line they belong to. Like the Jinan, for example, that's a fairly new one, and you'd have to get a win in the Sejong at tier 8 and the Harbin at tier 7, and maybe even the Chumfan at tier 6 to actually complete the Bureau project. So it's completely disconnected from the tech lines. Why they don't just put the legendary tier at the end of the tech line and allow you to grind from tier 8 to legendary tier, I don't know. Um, that would be too simple, I guess.
Yeah, cause I mean it's because they want you to get on and play every day. That's what they're going for. Because the longer you play a game, the more likely it is that you're just spend money on it. There's I forget who did the study or whatever, but it was like for every additional 40 hours you play a game, you're like 2% more likely to spend money on it with like a free to play game. So that's kind of what they're going for there. But that sounds interesting because that's kind of how the Puerto Rico dockyard worked. You had to grind up to a certain point in it, and then once you were there, the dockyard would just complete itself, and it was gaining progress even when you were offline. Once you were up to a certain point, it's like you could get to I forget which stage it was, once you got there, you just say, okay, I'm done. And over the next like 2 weeks, the dockyard would literally finish itself and you'd get to Puerto Rico. But of course, those missions were incredibly difficult for, well, really for today. I was going to say for back then, but for today too. But 6 months to get a ship. Holy crap.
I might be
Man.
exaggerating, but it is a long time. Even if you interact with these bureau projects and, get the wins or whatever to speed up your progress in whatever ships are required, it probably still takes about a good 2 months. And
Mhm.
of course, you can speed up the process by spending
Yeah.
doubloons.
I was going to ask that because you said pretty much everything but that. I'm like, surely they'll let you throw your credit card at the problem uh, and solve it. But
Yeah,
I saw that like Maine's a legendary ship, but it's just which is still technically at the same tier as the Yami, which is weird because on PC Maine is a legendary ship, and it's got less guns, doesn't it? On Legends than on PC.
if I remember correctly, the main was an original legend. It's completely different, the super ship that
Oh,
exists
okay.
on. But basically, I think the vision of the game Legends was originally a lot smaller. I think the reason that they call it World of Warships Legends is because the idea was to have a bunch of actual legendary, let's say, real ships that existed. And in the beginning, it was tier 1 to tier 7. So for the Americans, for example, you had the Iowa as the tier 7 tech tree battleship. Because, famous Iowa
Yeah,
class
yeah.
battleships, legends, naval legends, let's say. And so we've got the Iowa at tier 7, and then they add legendary tier later on in the game's life cycle, and tier 8 didn't exist at the time. So there was a gap because you would have the legendary tier fighting the tier 7s, which is not, it'd be the equivalent of tier 8 ships fighting tier 10 on PC,
Yeah.
but Legends matchmaking difference is just +1 -1. There's not two tiers.
Oh,
So yeah, it kind of was rough, tier 7s fighting legendary tiers,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we're like, why is there not a tier between them? So they said, okay, we'll put in a tier between them, but then they've got Iowa at tier 7, Montana at the legendary tier. What do they do to bridge the gap? So they created Maine,
So
which is basically a Montana, except it has 10 guns instead of,
instead of
because
12. Yeah,
yeah,
Montana's
12.
12. So what it's got to have some dual turrets then, doesn't it?
Yes, it's really, it looks like,
Like
what's that one?
Congress.
Yes, that little
Oh,
Alaska thing, the Congress. I think it's got the triple turret super firing and the double one, flush with the deck. I
no,
think I'm gonna.
that's. I don't want to look at that. That sounds like an abomination. Oh, I really don't like the way Congress looks because of that. Um, that okay. That's a creation. And then so was that main out before PC main?
Yeah, I think so. I think
Oh,
it was.
whoa.
It was one of the first tier 8 ships whenever the Legends developers created tier 8, which I think was before
Super ships.
the yeah super ships.
Speaking of wargaming and what they say, super ships we were told were a limited time event and they would not be added to the tech tree. And well, here we are. So
That's weird because I'm pretty sure I bought Condi and Setsuma from the tech tree on WoWs, but okay,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. They it's really funny because like I go back and I watch some of my older videos and such, just to see like what's changed between the game back then and now. And that was one of my videos I ran across, and I was like, guys, the devs said they're only going to be for this event. They're not coming to the tech tree. No need to worry about it. And then you go like a few months ago, hey guys, this is my first impression review of the American Super Battleship Main. Okay.
which is very good.
Oh, main PC main is very, very scary. 16-inch guns coming at you with that Mark 8 super heavy AP is indeed not much of a joke. So it's very scary. I don't think they've. That's one thing I like about wargaming so far, especially versus like Mir Karabli. They've been very slow with bringing more of these super ships to the game, which I'm very appreciative of. Like Mir Karabli, they've got I think almost double the amount of super ships, and over
Do
there
they?
too. Oh yeah. Like they've gone full into the sauce with super ships with Mir Karabli. And they added another mod slot for super ships, just for super ships. So you get an additional mod slot that makes them even more broken than they already are. So that's terrifying.
There's a difference there between Legends and WoWs. The mod slots, um, the legendary tier, which is essentially the tier 10, equivalent. There's 4 mod slots. And the same is true for tier 8 and tier 7. And then tier 6 has 3 mod slots. There's less mods
Yeah, so it's
on
four instead of six is your max.
yeah. So
Huh.
there's some mods that just don't exist on Legends. What's that one? And is it in the second or third slot? The damage control mod
Second
one
slot,
gives.
yeah, DC mod one.
Yeah, that doesn't exist in Legends. There's some other things. I can't remember them off the top of my head. I mean, I can look at a legendary tier ship. In the first slot, you can have aiming system mod 1, secondary mod 2, AA mod 2, main battery mod
So
2.
that's slot three on PC and slot one.
Oh,
Yeah, because slot three is the accuracy mod for secondaries, the dispersion mod, which is aiming system mod one, and like the I think the turret traverse mod goes there too on PC. Going off the
oh,
top of my head, I don't have the game pulled up right now.
yeah,
um,
I think it does.
yeah,
Oh, sorry if you hear my little dog Brutus barking. I don't know what he's on about.
no, it's fine. My fiance is right there, and she's been quiet so far. Now she's flipping me off. Yeah, okay. Um, but yeah, I know you're all good. Um, that's weird. 4 mods instead of 6, and mod 3 is mod 1. And I imagine like the other mods are probably shuffled around a little bit too. It's interesting what they decide to keep in versus remove for sure. Oh my
Yeah, it's
cameras,
perhaps more simplified in that way. I guess the commander system, on the other hand, is much more of a
convoluted
much more.
mess.
It is, and you'd probably be surprised if I told you, like, let's just take battleship commanders as an example, and the Americans. So generally speaking, there's like 2 commander archetypes for battleships, cruisers, destroyers. For battleships, there's an archetype where you can build into things like accuracy and things that'll buff your damage output in that way. And then the other archetype is more like for survivability. You'll get, I can't remember what the skill's called in WoWs, but you'll get the skill that'll give you extra heals. You'll get things that can build into secondaries, reduce the reload time on the main battery guns. But on that first archetype, the let's call them accuracy battleship commanders, there's one of the first skills in each of those commanders is called flammable cannoneer. And what it does is it increases main battery range on the battleship by up to 8%. But the second thing it does is increase battleship main battery shell grouping by up to 5%. Now, it's called shell grouping for whatever reason in Legends, but that's Sigma.
Oh,
And
okay. I thought you were about to say dispersion. So yeah, shell grouping dispersion sounds about right, but sigma.
nope, you
Oh,
can buff
okay.
the Sigma. And there's
Buff the sigma.
quite a bit
What?
of that, quite a bit of commander skills in Legends that'll do that. The downside
That's
to taking that skill is you increase the chance you're going to get lit on fire by
ah
13%, but and you also don't, generally speaking, get the ability to have extra heals, and most of the Legends battleship have 3 heals base instead of 4.
3 kills instead of 4. Okay. I mean, I guess, if it's a faster game and shorter battle time, I can see that. Because there's plenty of times on, like, PC where you don't use all of your heals. But that's buffing the Sigma. That's... Wow. That's
Yeah.
wild.
Uh,
Huh.
in addition to that, too, there's there's spotter planes and there's fighter planes, and they just did something in the last update where they buffed the way that the fighter planes work because they were kind of useless after they removed.
Yeah,
Well, they
mini-map
were
spotting. Or added mini-map
well,
spotting, yeah.
but they removed plane spotting of any kind when they
Oh, yeah,
did
yeah, 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 yeah.
so they couldn't even do that. But the what's it called? It's called Observation Seaplane in Legends. It's the spotter plane. Um, it does not increase the main battery range. Instead, it buffs the main battery shell grouping, or sigma, by 10% for the duration of the consumable, which is 30 seconds. So enough for one salvo.
Yeah, that's... Wonder why they went with buffing the Sigma instead of buffing the Dispersion. Because, like the Bungo line has... what's it called? It's like spotter with enhanced optics or whatever, whatever name they called it, where you get a 10% buff to your dispersion, but not to your sigma.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if
That's
it's the
weird.
case that sort of the legend ships are balanced around the idea that you're going to use these skills to buff the sigma, but I think in a lot of cases the sigma value between the ships, you could pick any ship from PC to Legends, is roughly the same.
Yeah.
Um, some ships are more, let's say, direct translations of their counterparts on World of Warships. Some are not.
Yeah, I've seen. Isn't this is just my ADHD kicking in? Y'all have Vanguard, right?
Yep.
And what's that? A tier 8?
That is the tier 7
Tier
tech
7. Okay.
tree.
Okay. Because I remember because like you said, they went in, they added in the tier 8 and legendary tier, so there's some weird things that, like, it's like, well, really, that's above an Iowa in the tech lines, Um, but yeah, the commander thing, it seems interesting, but also really convoluted at the same time. Um,
One Once you look at it, it's maybe a little bit
yeah,
simpler, but it is convoluted. And personally, I think the commander system is it's a bit of a mess right now, in my opinion. And eventually, they're going to get to a point where they're going to have to do some kind of rework because there are, how there's collaboration events, and you get, for example, the Azur Lane commanders. Well, on World of Warships, I think they're essentially just the Azur Lane lady, a portrait, and a voiceover, right? But
yeah,
other than that, they're like any other
nothing
commander.
else. Yeah,
Well, on Legends, they have unique skills. They have the portrait, they've got the voiceover, but they've got unique skills and unique sort of setups that I guess the free to play commanders don't have. I think we could pick a old example like Azurlane Nelson. Nelson is one of my favorite battleships in the game, and so they got Azurlane Nelson, and she is a commander archetype that sort of combines what I was talking about earlier, the accuracy archetype and the tank archetype. She's got the flammable cannoneer skill to buff the accuracy and the range. She's also got the master mechanic skill to give you 2 extra heals. But her unique skill is called Big Seven, and it buffs battleship main gun AP shell damage by 16%.
holy
Same
crap!
thing. Yeah, same thing with the HE, buffs it by 16%, although it does nerf the penetration of both shells by
Oh,
15%.
okay.
So there is a downside to it, but with that, you can get a crazy HE alpha strike on the British battleships.
Yeah, that's nuts. Giving, like, British BBHE that big of a buff seems insane. Like
There's
it
a lot of
already
stuff
hurts,
like
and like
that
especially like the
too.
well, I guess Nelson's a little bit different on like Legends, but like giving Nelson that much of a buff and being like, yeah, we remove 50% of the pin, but it's like, well, Nelson and PC doesn't really care about the pin because it just overmatches whatever anyway. Because 16-inch guns at tier 7, at least on PC. Um, yeah, that's got to be because maybe not. I was about to say you'd be surprised how much money we spend on these Azure Lane events. Um,
Oh, I
like
know.
despite my best efforts, TSOF is full of weebs, and like they were like geeking out so bad about Hindenburg coming to World of Warships with the most recent Azure Lane collab. I'm like, yeah, do you know this is just like a JPEG, right, with a voiceover, and it does not matter. So I can see how that's going to become a bit of a problem with the game going forward. Because like I went to CarrierCon. I got invited to CarrierCon. The Hornet Museum invited me there, and we had a Water Warships panels. Me and Sea Raptor and Ryan from Battleship New Jersey was there too. So that was pretty cool getting to meet him and getting to meet Sea Raptor and being on that panel, and like the the little area that we were at, the sitting area was like 2/3 of the way full for our panel. But like right behind us was like the Azure Lane people, and like they packed that to the max. I'm like, oh my god, like they have this much money? All these weebs do? And not even talking about that, but like other collabs too, like the YouTubers and stuff. I can imagine that's a bit of a nightmare if they would ever do something like that on Legends. Have to make all these YouTubers, commanders, unique skills and such. That's
Well, so they've
hello.
done something different with that. There is the YouTuber collaboration, like
Oh
we've got
really?
Moist Critical and whoever else was involved.
Yeah.
Um, but they're not commanders. They're what are called guises. Um, and basically, it's just a skin that you put on the commander, so it changes their portrait, their voiceover, and it also gives them colored shell tracers, like the Halseys or
Mm-hmm.
the yeah. But it's just a cosmetic thing. So there is that too. And they've been releasing a lot more of these guises lately, more than uh, commanders themselves, which maybe isn't that bad of a thing because, like I was saying, these collaboration commanders, Azerlane Nelson, all of them, they have these skills, but of course you have to pay real money for them,
Yeah.
and they are not available all the time. They're available whenever the Azerlane collaboration or whatever it is comes back. But till then, if you want access to these powerful commander skills, you're kind of out of luck, which I think is a bit of a problem.
Yeah, that's like with Joaquim. It's taken forever for them to bring back his containers. So like you can get a chance at getting him again. Cause for God, what 8, 7 months? Only those that threw money at the event got him. Like he's a really powerful commander to have on anything Pan American, with the buff he gets to the combat instructions, and then once you get 175 main or secondary battery hits, you get that like 15% buff to the reload of your main and secondary battery guns, which is insane to have on Libertad. But again, for like half a year, only those that threw money at the event could get him. I mean, now they're bringing his containers back finally, but shoot, that's that I don't like that at all. Either way, that's a major pay to win element right there for sure.
Yeah, it's not good. That's funny though that Libertad comes up because the Legends community, we have Atlantico, and I mean its secondaries are good. It's got those
Mm-hmm.
cruiser size secondaries, and they
Goliath
do a lot of
secondaries, yeah.
damage. And people are like, "Oh, the Atlantico's so overpowered; it needs a nerf." And I'm like, "Don't worry. Whenever they add the Pan American line, the Atlantico will be nerfed by power creep. So
Yeah,
just
dude.
just hold on."
Yeah, I mean that was because I would play the Atlantico for the background footage for when we were talking about the Libertad and Libertad line got announced and such, and I was reading the stats and like in the background game, you have Atlantico just bulldozering through everything because of those insane Goliath caliber secondary guns. And it's like you're gonna give something like this, but it's faster, more maneuverable, but still pretty darn well armored, a funny button that gives it 14 kilometer secondaries or 15 kilometer secondaries, whatever it gets. Because I thought, okay, we're going to get a line of Atlanticos, really well armored but slow, AP only main battery gun battleships. Like, okay, that seems pretty cool. And then we got the Libertad line, and it's like, oh my god, this is nuts. Um, but yeah,
They
power
are.
creep is. I mean, I think that affects any tiered vehicular game, really any game that goes on for friggin' 10 years. Um, but obviously, sometimes wargaming does go and dump jet fuel on that issue.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, there's power creep in Legends too. Atlanta, which exists in both games, it's a powerful light cruiser. But back in the day of Legends, it was one of the first campaign ships, I think, and it was super potent. But now, of course, we've got the whole, Pan Asian light cruiser line, which is a bunch of Atlantas and various other things that do the thing that Atlanta always did, but do it
Better,
better.
yeah.
So,
That's like with
yeah.
San Diego in PC, which it's like just different enough to where you can say it doesn't really power creep Atlanta, but it's like I've played so much San Diego over Atlanta. It's not even funny because you bump it up to a tier, you buff the armor a little bit, you give it a heal, and my god, it's great. And the sap and the reload booster helps as well. So
We have the San Diego too, and they buffed the SAP Alpha um, a while ago. It was the same as what it was on World of Warships when they first put the San Diego in Legends, but now it is the maximum SAP shell damage is 2,300, and I want to say it used to be
yeah,
1,800.
should be around 18 ish. Either
Yep.
18 or 19. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head right now, but that's funny. They said that needed a buff. That's wild because that ship, at least when I played, I usually do pretty good in it. I'm pretty terrible in light cruisers. Um, that's nuts. That
I
the
could tell you
decisions
about.
wargaming makes sometimes it's just like what?
If you think that's nuts, I should tell you about the Colbert in Legends. Um, Colbert is not widely available. It's a legendary tier ship, but it was kind of a special one. It
Mhm.
wasn't through the Bureau. It was like you could buy the Bureau project for a limited time. And it was actually, I think, pretty easy to get, if I remember correctly. It might have even been free. But since the beginning, the Colbert has had 32 millimeter armor plating on the whole hull. I don't know why.
That's
Um,
wow.
yep, but that's not all. I mean, I think it was a stat for stat translation of what it is on PC for in terms of the DPM. And year or two ago, they buffed the DPM. They said Colbert is a fantastic ship, but it lacks battle impact and damage output in all but the most capable hands. So we're gonna buff the damage output. I was like, okay,
Hmm.
sure. And
That's
there's
yeah.
weird stuff like that.
And that might be wargaming speak for not enough people are playing it, so we're gonna buff it because that's how they've admitted to this. How if some ship isn't being played to their enough to their liking, they will buff it, and if something's being played too much, they will nerf it based on that. Well, granted, they haven't. This was like I think 3 years ago when they made when they made that statement, but so I don't know if that's how true that is for today, but that can kind of be, what they're saying there. I've gotten good at translating what wargaming says. Although they have been recently, they've been a little bit more straightforward with it, which is refreshing. But yeah, it's interesting. Colbert buffs. That's wild because that
I
that
thought it
thing's
was
a
wild at the
menace.
time.
That thing's a
It
menace on
is.
PC.
It's a menace when you give it 32 millimeter armor
Oh well,
plating
yeah. I mean,
too.
because like the one thing about Colbert is that, like, okay, when I do hit it with my battleship gun, it's going to lose a quarter of its HP. But the fact is, in good hands, you're not going to hit a Colbert. Um,
No,
32 millet. Dang, that's all right. Wargaming. All right. Um,
we were talking about Worcester earlier. That's got a 32 millimeter bow and stern,
what?
although yeah, it does. But the side plating, the upper belt armor is 25. So I don't know why they have a
that
32 millimeter cap on either end of it, but they do.
I'm assuming like the overmatching formula is the same, right?
Yep.
So okay, they want Booster to bow tank. Man, the poor like Legends player that comes to PC is like, you know what? I'm gonna go play. I'm gonna go down to Wooster, and they get to Wooster. They try to bow tank like a Montana or something, and just get evaporated. Oh my god, that's huh. That
Yep.
that is
Oh,
indeed a
and
design choice.
Edinburgh has 30 millimeter armor plating for, I don't know why, the Neptune and the Minotaur are both basically the same as what they are
PC,
on
yeah.
PC, but Edinburgh has 30 millimeter plating everywhere.
Man, someone's doing drugs or something over there. That's. I mean, I guess since like battleships are forced to play closer, maybe I could see maybe cranking it up to like 30 at top tier, but like 32, just giving cruisers the ability to give battleships the middle finger. That's wild. I would love to talk with whatever dev made that decision because that's a decision.
It is. I don't get it myself. Like I said, though, Legends is a weird, chaotic thing. Not to say, I mean, obviously, I love the game. Otherwise, I wouldn't be a CC for it or
Yeah,
be doing YouTube content for however long I have been. But it is a weird thing. It's very odd uh, compared to World of Warships. Much less standardization, much more sort of Wild West chaos, I guess.
yes. So speaking about it, being a console game and all that, and I don't think you were speaking about that, but I'm going to segue into this question here because of that. How do you capture footage for the game on console? Do you have a capture
There's
card, or do you just use like the in-house record feature?
Yeah, I have a capture card. And that's how I do it. You know, I just have it plugged into the PC and I'll record the video and audio through the capture card. On the PlayStation 5 at least, if anybody does have a console and wants to capture video footage, you can do that with the built-in features of the PlayStation 5 and it'll do it at 1080p, 60 frames per second, I think. Um, but yeah, just take a capture card to the HDMI output from the console, get a splitter, put one end in the monitor to play the game, the other end in the PC to record.
Okay, that's neat. I've I don't know. There's been times where I wanted to play console games on the channel, but like, and it's one of the things about doing YouTube and doing a Warships channel for 7-8 years now. When it's nothing Warships and it's not boat related, it doesn't do very well. So I just never jumped the gun and bought a capture card for my PS5 because I mean like the way they've been going recently, PS5 games have been coming to PC at a quite a quick rate here recently. So kind of haven't really been needing it, but I was just wondering how you got around that. So I'm assuming you do like all your audio caption stuff on PC too.
Yep.
Yeah, which explains
I
the studio
use
quality mic.
yeah, I use whatever it's DaVinci Resolve.
Really?
Um yeah, that's what I use to make videos. It's powerful. I'm not an expert in it. I'm no kind of video editor. I think you probably do this to a degree too, but I've got the gameplay footage and I just talk over it.
Oh
Not
yeah.
a lot of editing involved.
No, there's really not. I mean, I've done some things. I'm not sure if you've seen the ultimate tier list videos.
Yeah,
Um,
I've seen those.
dude, that is so much work Oh my
I'm sure.
god. I don't use anything fancy like DaVinci or Adobe. I use Shotcut. I'm not sure if you've heard of it.
Yeah, I've
Um,
heard of it.
oh, you've okay. So it is like it's freeware, which I love. I don't have to pay anything for it. But my God, is it? It's a fun ride with Shotcut because you'll be there working on a project. And it just decides it wants to stop working for a minute, and you better hope you saved within an hour or so. Um, of the point at which it just decides to stop working. But it works. It's free, and I've used it for 8 years. I think I was definitely pushing its limits with the Ultimate Battleship tier list video because I had like 30 something video layers in there and such with all the images and such. So that was insane. I don't see how. I'm not sure if you like watched like a modern YouTuber, the brain rot edits. I don't know how they do that and stay sane on whatever editing program they use because that's gonna be so many layers and so many um inputs and sources in a video anymore. So that's just insane in my mind.
Video editing is time consuming and intensive. Maybe you should. I used Shotcut for a time before somebody turned me on to DaVinci Resolve, and there's plenty of. It's free. There's a paid version of it,
Oh,
but
is it? I thought okay, no, I thought it was paid. I might look at that. But I mean, my thing is that like I've used it for like again like 8 9 years, and it does everything I need it to do. And every now and then I find out it can do a little bit more, which is fun. I am doing another Ultimate Tier List video this year. Should be out around Christmas time. Um, so maybe I'll see if I can transition to something a little bit more stable for then. But like the majority of the videos that I do, which it's usually just commentary, something on top, it works. Um,
yeah.
what I really like editing is the cinematic videos like Jutland and Hunt for Bismarck and stuff. That stuff's really it's fun to film and it's fun to edit those together like movies. That's really cool. That's what I really like to do. I'm not sure if you've seen any of those, but they are shoot, they take longer to put together than the tier list videos just because getting the shots going to the replays and stuff and fighting the replay camera. I don't know how the wargaming PR guys do it. They have to have some like secret tool or plugin that they have to get those camera angles and shots they do in like the update videos or like the trailers and stuff where they have actual gameplay footage because the replay camera in game is atrocious. It's so bad, but you can get it to look right every now and then.
Yeah, there is no replay system in Legends,
Oh,
and
really? That's
no,
wow. Huh. Well, I guess
you
because
just
it's
kind of.
console.
Yeah, you just kind. Well, I think there is a replay system in the console version of Tanks, but I don't know. I might be wrong on that. I've never played it. But yeah, there's not one in Legends. You would just have to record, and there's also no way to get a free camera really anywhere, or even you could go into a training room, but you can't even remove the
You can't detach the
AI,
camera.
the UI.
Oh, well, yeah, that's console. That makes sense. I'm saying that because like every game now that comes out is like 100 gigs or whatever, so there's not really room for that, I guess, in the game files. And well, in most consoles, you can't really go into the files anyway. So I guess, um, I don't know, like Black Ops, the original Black Ops had a replay system, so I guess that kind of defeats that argument, huh?
I'm sure it's possible. They just
Oh yeah,
they
yeah.
just don't have it. They probably never will either because I don't know what that would really do. I mean, ultimately they're wanting to make money. I don't know what putting in a replay system would do for their bottom line.
4K replays. I don't know. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, because like there's 2 or 3 big replay bugs in PC that they just haven't bothered to fix at all. Um, if you catch my
I,
replay videos, half the time the scores are reversed.
yep. I realize that I've made a couple videos on my own channel of games on World of Warships, and I've used the replays for that, and I've noticed some of those bugs, like the scores being switched.
It's weird. And then sometimes like the guns will be pointing in the opposite direction and they'll fire the other way. Sometimes they like a ship that doesn't even have 360 turrets. The turrets are 360. You know, I've seen a Montana's number 3 turret just clip through the superstructure, going to wherever it needs to go. So that was interesting. But yeah, no, it's like you said, you know, they don't make any money from it, so why bother fixing it? Which is probably why they took them so long to overhaul operations and PVE. But I guess when asymmetric just caught on, they realized, you know, people will be playing if they put in modes that they like. And now we've gotten a whole slew of new PVE modes, which is quite refreshing in my mind. I'm getting stuck like a CD player now.
Yeah, they just put a PvE mode into Legends. I don't think it's in there anymore in this update. It was called not Operations, War Tales is what it was called, but it's basically Operations. And they debuted that in the last update. Everybody really liked it. Everybody was very angry though for a time because of course you could grind a lot of credits in the War Tales thing, and they nerfed that.
Can't
And
have
so
that.
yeah, and so people were mad, and but hopefully it'll become a permanent part of the game. The only really permanent game modes in Legends are, of course, you know, co-op versus AI, which is essentially the same thing you'd have on
PC, yeah.
uh, PC, and then there's standard battle, which is random battles. But they do have another permanent game mode that's not too old. They only put it in a while back. It's called Arcade, and it's like a 5v5 format. Um, it only goes from tier 1s to 6, and I think there's some sort of simplified mechanics to it. I want to say your modules can't get broken,
Huh.
maybe, is stuff like that. And so it's 5v5 and meant to be, not that the whole game itself isn't arcade. It is, you know, an
Yeah,
arcadey
that's what I was about
ships
to say.
game,
It's already a very arcadey game. Huh,
but
that's
this is
weird.
like super arcade
Yeah, sounds
basically, and
like
that is
Brawls almost?
it kind of is like that. Although right now there's an ongoing season 27 of Brawl
Oh,
in
there you
World
go.
of Warships Legends.
Huh. So,
And
something I wanted to ask. I'm sorry if I'm cutting you off.
oh no, go ahead.
But the missiles. Did you try out the missiles that they had in that temporary mode or whatever in Legends?
Oh yeah, yeah, but honestly, it didn't make that much of an impression on me. Um, I did. It was some. What was that they had those missiles
It
in
was
there?
like the Rogue Wave event that we had on PC, like the Mad Max but water, but not Waterworld event.
Yeah, it might have been like some Halloween thing. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, and I don't know. Didn't make much of an impression on me. I might have played it like once or twice. I tend to just play standard battles.
Yeah. No, I'm just asking because in the Star Trek events, they had one type of missiles, which they've tried two types of missiles in the past. One worked like what we had in the Star Trek event, where you got a radar lock on a ship. The missiles would fire and fly towards the ship that you had the radar lock on and then hit them. And then they had a second type of missiles, which worked like gunnery, where you selected an area for your missiles to go. Missiles would launch, then fly toward that area, and then basically they have dispersion within the reticle where you aimed them when you launched them, which is a lot like what I saw in the footage for the missiles that were added in for whatever that event was in Legends. So it seemed to me that they were like trying out the two types of missiles again with some refinement. Like the Star Trek photon torpedoes are more based upon like the submarine torpedoes and their ping mechanics, and the Legends missiles were kind of like the more old school ones. So it's just interesting to me that like they have basically the two different versions of missiles they were testing, that they were testing them again. So just want to see if you experienced that. But I mean, it sounds like what we've been told about them in the past. They've basically said that like neither system worked very well and they weren't that impactful. So
Yeah, I didn't know what to make of that. I didn't know if that was like a test because they'd like to, I don't know, put more modern ships in the game with missiles. I don't know how that would work. That seems like a different game to me, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
because like Water Tanks has Water Tank CW, which is like Cold War era stuff, but is even more arcadey. So you really would have to do like either like a Water Warships, I don't know, tube, or have like
yeah.
a whole new bracket like tier 12 to 15. You can only matchmake within that set tier because I don't think the Yami would do all that well against an Arleigh Burke, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
probably not. I mean, it doesn't do that. It didn't do that well in real life against planes.
yeah. Let alone anti-ship missiles and such. But yeah, no. So it's just interesting to see what Wargaming tries out because a lot of times on PC, these temporary modes are usually them testing out different mechanics. Like Asymmetrics was really just about testing the new AI, but players liked it so much they just keep bringing it back. And obviously the Unbreakable Lines are testing out respawning and such. So it might show up in a more permanent mode later. It might not. Who knows?
Yeah, the respawning thing was weird. I'll tell you what I like that they did on World of Warships was remove the ship in battle after you sink.
Oh my god, yeah, that's. I'm so glad that got removed.
That's still on Legends.
Oh, what? Really? Oh, that
Yeah.
sucks, dude. Oh my god, that. Wow, that really sucks. I was so happy when they removed that. Because, I mean, sometimes you do just see a random wall of torpedoes from nowhere, and, I mean, sure, you might have goofed up there, but the fact that you gotta wait for, 15, 20 minutes sometimes to get your ship back, that blows.
Well, maybe not 15 minutes. I mean, there's tons of blowout matches that end
Oh,
very
yeah, yeah,
quickly in
yeah.
Legends,
Yeah.
but yeah, it does suck when you got a new ship and you're trying to say stuff about it on YouTube and record some decent games and then something
Oof.
bad happened. Yeah.
Dude, that was probably the thing that held me up for the longest time when I was making videos back in the day, especially on like a new premium ship. Because I'm sure you get this too. You get the it's a new ship effect, and then you get the kill the YouTuber effect, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're as I usually mention, I've tested this ship quite thoroughly in its survivability because everyone wants to kill me. Um, so that sucked back in the day because you don't know the ship yet, you don't know its parameters and such, and then well, the entire team's blasting you right now because new ship and YouTubers. So yeah, I was so glad when they removed that. It's just nicer to just get going to the next battle. Don't even have to go back to port for it. But that just seems weird because
It
they're all about like keeping you playing and such. But the fact that like you have to wait 5 or 10 minutes before you can go back and battle with the ship that you just got, it's odd.
yeah, I assume one day they'll do that on Legends. I mean, it seems like the kind of game where you would want to do that. It is sort of a faster paced version, I guess, of World of Warships, and
Yeah,
being able to go right back into battle sort of facilitates that
yeah, that
faster
that
pace.
like instant gratification that so many young people are tuned for nowadays with like TikTok and Amazon Prime and stuff. I say that, but like I don't know if you've seen the video of like the retirees at the Las Vegas casino just like smashing the friggin' slot machine button. I guess it's just a human thing. But yeah, no, it's again we're gonna make some interesting decisions. So
They do.
we are just over our time. So Xarkun, where can people find you?
Uh, Xarkun. Just type that into YouTube, and there I'll be. I'm one of a few Legends content creators.
Mhm.
Been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, Zarkun and I, just so everyone knows, we've been messaging each other on and off for like the past 2 years. Um, and it's really funny because I've been like, yeah, dude, we gotta like get together and like collaborate or whatever. And then like I would get really busy and not message him back for like a year, and then we oh, not maybe not a year, but a couple of months, and then we would start messaging again. So it was nice to finally sit down with you and chat for an hour and a half. And
Yeah.
perhaps one day we will actually dual stream or cross stream, or I don't know, Ghostbusters cross the streams or whatever, or do a video together, whatever. But yeah, I'll have all of Xarkun's links in the description on YouTube and Spotify down below. As always, feedback is much appreciated. You can leave a comment on the YouTube video or Spotify, or you can come shout at me on my channel as well in the post when I talk about the podcast. Feel free to shout at me there, wherever you guys need to shout at me at to get some feedback on the podcast. So Xarkun, thank you for coming on. Anything you want to say before we go?
Thanks for having me, and um, I don't know if I have anything else to say. I feel like I this whole time I've been very critical of Legends. I do like it. It's a fun
Yeah.
game. It's a different thing from PC, so I don't know. Give it a try on Steam. Maybe you'll see me out there whenever that game goes fully live.
Yeah, and like I get like I make a lot of negative comments about World of Warships too, but we both do it because like we love the game. We
Yeah.
just don't, and we don't like to see it go in directions that we are probably not the best for it. So we're very critical when that happens because we want it to be a better product and enjoyable for everybody. But again, make sure to check Xarkun out. Again, links to all of his stuff will be in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure drop a like. I'm doing the YouTuber thing for a podcast. My God. Yeah, watch the podcast again and subscribe. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see y'all next week.